years down the line, whenever you're working on the same sort of field, working the same career, but you look back at what you thought was perfect at the moment, it's going to be a very dim reflection of what actually you know is better now. So when we're talking about progressing, right, whenever we're talking about how we can become better at a certain skill, become better at a certain task, excel at a project, whatever it may be, there's this sort of arbitrary conception of perfection that each person holds in their mind based on what the standard they hold for themselves and for other people is. Um, and something that I guess I want to touch on and give you to think about today is sort of how this guise of perfection actually hinders the progress you can make at large, right? Because whenever we're so focused on getting the project, the task, the event, whatever may be perfect, and whatever perfect means, we fixate on just this iteration of whatever event we're working with, whatever project we're working with, and sort of cloud our focus from being able to see that we have time to improve upon it in the future. So this is not any excuse to not have any, weight in what you're doing, to not worry about the end outcome at all. But whenever perfection becomes this vessel that actually slows us down and inhibits us from ever creating or producing or working on any projects that we need to complete, when perfection gets in the way of that, it actually slows down the progress at large and inhibits the ability of sort of putting something out, creating something, making a project, whatever it may be, and then seeing how that is received by the actual judges of whatever it is, and then being able to adapt and sort of critique and improve upon it over time, right? And sort of seeing this as a multi-iteration process instead of a one and done finalized form you're putting out. It gives us the ability to actually grow faster and more, right? Because whatever you perceive and sort of conceive in your mind as perfection at the moment, in years down the line, whenever you're working on the same sort of field, working the same career, but you look back at what you thought was perfect at the moment, it's going to be a very dim reflection of what actually you know is better now. And so we have to be able to understand that this sort of guise of perfection, this concept we have in our mind, is at best limited to whatever we can understand in the moment. And we have to also, in that, be able to see that what we understand, what we can conceive and imagine in our mind is limited by the actual ability and the knowledge, the understanding we have of whatever concept we're working with. And so as that grows, as that expands, our ability to sort of conceptualize a better outcome, a better path forward also expands. And so the goal being to get to the highest level possible of that sort of conceptualization as quickly as we can is a much more sort of productive and beneficial goal for yourself and for everybody involved, as opposed to focusing on only what you can see now, only what you can conceptualize now, and making that as perfect as possible, because ultimately the same process is going to have to happen of sort of putting out, critiquing, improving over and over again, but sort of being slowed down and inhibited by this concept of perfection we have in our minds at each moment. Ultimately just slows down the process overall. So hopefully that gives you something to think about, maybe helps you to implement some kind of system that helps to not be slowed down by this idea of perfection. But yeah, maybe you can even learn to and hopefully be pushed towards wielding failure and errors as a means to learn and actually improve your skills and whatever you're working towards much more efficiently than striving for this arbitrary concept of perfection will ever do for you. So yeah, that gives you something to think about. Thanks for watching. See you next time.